That fateful day, Liana went into the forest to pick wild strawberries. She did not know that the forest was exceptionally warm that year, and that snakes were awakening from hibernation.
No! No! Liana! Liana! No!
Please, I beg you, save my wife, the man pleaded with a god through his tears. Then the god spoke.
お前の視野を通大量の助けよう。
I will give you the power to save your wife, but it is a curse, not a blessing. If your wife survives until her 20th birthday, the curse will be broken. So listen carefully to my words. No matter what happens, until you leave the underworld, never look back.
Here we go again,
sighed Liana as she lay in the grass deep within the forest. She was waiting for her husband, Duke Draven, who was coming to find her. Ever since her accidental death, he had never stopped coming back to retrieve her again and again from the depths of hell. Her husband was a man who was both terrifying and devastatingly handsome. Once every year, Liana always ended up dying in one way or another before reaching the age of 20. Whether it was poisoning, a fall, drowning, or a deadly illness, she had experienced so many ways of dying that she no longer dared count them over the past 15 years. This time, she had just turned 19 for the 15th time. Dozens of first times, every time she came back to life. Now her husband was 34 years old, leaving her behind. You're already awake? Liana asked her husband. I have to leave soon, he told her. You have embroidery lessons today, don't you? Liana remembered everything, but she quickly realized that her husband Draven had no knowledge of it. She had absolutely no intention of telling him. Why? Well, because she loves Draven. How would he feel if he discovered that the wife he had spent 15 years trying to save remembered everything? Liana, however, wondered what would happen if she confessed it to him. Would he stop coming to save her? Lost in her thoughts, Liana made a mistake with her needle, which immediately alerted her lady-in-waiting, who hurried over to ask if she was all right. Liana looked sadly at her fingers and told her that she was fine. She thought it was pointless to dwell on it, since she died every time she tried to tell him the truth. Moreover, Draven had become hypersensitive because of her frequent deaths, and he had imposed several restrictions on her. He demanded to be informed about everything that happened in Liana's daily life. She was never allowed to go out alone. One would think he would be exhausted after 15 years, but no, he was still just as protective of her, to the point where Liana sometimes felt suffocated, but she understood that he was doing all of this for her. My lady, a man shouted from afar. Liana turned around and spotted her guard, Leo. I heard that you injured your hand today. Are you all right? He asked worriedly. Haha, it's nothing serious really, Liana replied. Leo knelt down and extended his hand, asking permission to examine Liana's injury. Every time she died, everyone's memories were reset, and Leo was the one who made Liana realize that fact the most. She had known him since he was a child. He was so small and cute, Liana thought. Now he was a grown man and even older than she was. You know how demanding the master is, Leo said while examining her injury. He's going to completely lose it if he sees this. It must hurt, he concluded, his eyes full of compassion. Liana asked him to keep it a secret. I should have protected you better, he said, full of regret. Liana thanked him for worrying about her health and stroked his hair. Ooh, he's like a puppy, she thought. It was a nice day for once, and Liana wanted to enjoy the fresh air. On the way, she noticed a change in the landscape. Is this a new bridge? She asked. Leo replied that yes, it was. The old bridge was dangerous because it was very worn out, so a new one had recently been built. Liana hurried to see the new bridge up close. Leo shouted that the duck had said not to approach the water if possible, but Liana was already gone. Perfect, she called out. You said it was a new bridge, right? Arriving on the bridge, Liana stared at the water with deep sadness, wondering how long she would live this time. 3 months? 6 months? Maybe this time I'll manage to live 10 years, she thought. She touched the bridge railing and found it clean. It's really brand new, she thought. When we were children, we always met here in secret, Draven and I. He always brought me gifts when we met. How long am I going to keep living like this? Liana was lost in thought and only noticed too late the crow that had targeted her. She screamed and cried, but the crow kept attacking. My lady, watch out! Leo shouted as he rushed to save her, but the crow's pecks eventually knocked her off the bridge. Unconscious, Liana was lost in a memory. She was looking at the flower ring Draven had just given her. What is this? She asked. The wedding is coming soon, and it's good to get into the mood beforehand. Draven replied. But I'm already your fiancé, Draven, she said. Being engaged and being a real wife are clearly two different things, Liana. But will anything change after our marriage? She asked him. Liana was asking herself the same question. Draven admitted he wished they could continue living like this. I'm already happy enough like this. I don't want anything more special, he concluded. Liana, overjoyed, confessed she still hoped they could have a baby. Yes, he replied shyly. Oh, Draven, I think I'll go pick wild raspberries later. Where should I go? You seem to know the forest well. Back to the present. The Duke had already dived in to save Liana. Fortunately, he was also strolling through the garden when he heard his wife's screams. The servants were gathered around Liana, unconscious, while Draven did what was necessary to save her life. What should we do? Poor lady, they exclaimed. The servants hoped it would not lead to anything serious. Liana finally woke up, coughing and spitting out the water she had swallowed while drowning. Draven, out of breath, was already shouting at her even though she had just woken up. You really? I told you it was dangerous! The servants rushed to help Liana as she struggled to stand. How long will I live like this? Liana wondered, exhausted. I'm going to die soon anyway. It hurts. It hurts so much. I hate this. I'm scared. I feel like the whole world is pushing me from behind. Liana felt suffocated again. I'm sorry. Draven apologized, finally controlling his anger. He knelt beside his wife and tried to calm her. He had been so afraid of losing her yet again. Under Duke Draven's command, they transformed the cold, rigid northern lands, often invaded by enemies, into a massive fortress. He strengthened national defense and took charge of the country's economy. The land where neither wheat nor grass grew had become prosperous, and the people admired him with joy. That's my beloved husband, Liana thought. He received all those injuries saving me in battle. Everything started because he wanted to protect me. And yet, what am I thinking about? Draven carried Liana away under Leo's intense gaze. He could no longer tolerate his master's attitude toward Liana. Later that night, Liana was more relaxed after a good bath. You were really scared earlier, weren't you? Draven asked, while still working. Liana grabbed him with both hands and said, You should say those things while looking me straight in the eyes. Draven, I'm sorry for what happened earlier. What are you apologizing for? He asked. You told me not to go near the water, but I went anyway. You must have been very frustrated because of that, she said. That bridge, did you demolish it and rebuild it? That one? It was old and dangerous, he replied. Oh, look at this, Draven, Liana said, handing him a handkerchief. I made this today, in embroidery class. A handkerchief? Draven was surprised. The hunting festival is over, but I wanted to give it to you as a gift, Liana confessed proudly. Draven asked what flower she had embroidered. Status, she replied. That flower symbolizes eternal love. I think I'll buy a pot and grow some. It's lovely, Draven said. Thank you, Liana. Draven noticed the bandage on her finger and immediately panicked. What happened? How did you get hurt? He shouted, grabbing Liana's wrist tightly. Liana, surprised by his grip, immediately answered, I just pricked myself with a needle. Just pricked by a needle? Draven asked. I told you to be careful. Stop the embroidery class. I shouldn't have let you attend it in the first place. But Draven, Liana did not even have time to defend herself. Draven continued lecturing her. No matter how many times I tell you to be careful, you never listen. It's not like I enjoy having to repeat myself all the time. It hurts, Draven, Liana shouted to bring Draven back to his senses. Draven! I'm fine. Listen, I'm perfectly fine, okay? People don't die from this. I understand why you worry. It's just that sometimes there are moments when I feel so suffocated that I can't bear it anymore. I can't even remember the last time I ran with all my strength or rolled around in the grass until my lungs felt like they were about to burst. All my memories have become blurry. Draven, on the other hand, admitted that he wished they could continue living just as they were now, without changing anything. I'm already happy enough like this. I don't want anything more special. Liana asked him why he kept saying that. We're married, even if we don't have children yet. That's not what I mean, Draven interrupted. Then what? Liana asked, wanting a clearer explanation. It's because, Draven began. The reason you became like this, is it because of me? Draven asked anxiously. I've been trying to protect you for 15 years, Liana, and you know nothing about it, Draven thought, lost in his memories. He remembered the day he had told Liana the best place to pick wild strawberries in the southern forest after she had asked him. "You'll find plenty in the forest with the old tree that was struck by lightning recently," Draven had told her. "Really? I haven't gone there yet," Liana admitted. "Make me jam with the strawberries you pick. I want to add it to my goat milk every morning," Draven said happily. "Okay," Liana replied cheerfully. "I'll pick lots of them and ask the cooks to store them." Liana heard her maid calling for her and said goodbye to Draven. "I really have to go now. See you later." Draven could not stop watching her. He loved her so much. The next day, after training, one of Draven's friends asked why his fiancée Liana had not come today. Draven replied that she had gone into the forest to pick wild strawberries. "Where?" his friend asked in panic. "I hope it's not the southern forest." "Yes, that one," Draven replied. "Why? What's wrong?" "People say the forest is exceptionally warm this year," his friend began. "It's full of snakes waking up from hibernation." No, Liana!" Draven cried out as he rushed toward the forest at full speed. He desperately hoped it was a lie, but it wasn't. It was the tragic reality, and by then he had arrived too late. Back in the present, Liana asked him why what had happened to her would be his fault. Draven asked if she truly understood the meaning of his words. She told him she did not. "Sometimes you say things I don't understand, Draven." "It is my duty to protect you," he told her. "That's why God sent me here." "My duty, huh?" Liana thought. "I know we don't have children yet, but can't we at least have one?" Liana asked, as if trying to change the subject. "We are a married couple after all. I say we should fulfill our marital duties." Draven was completely caught off guard and flinched at his wife's boldness. "Wait, Liana," he said. "Why? You don't want to?" she asked. I don't think we should do that here," he replied. "No, wait, Liana," he shouted, startling his wife and making her stop. "Today, I'm a little tired," he apologized. "It's because of the age gap, isn't it?" Liana asked. At some point, he simply started avoiding me completely, Liana thought. She remembered that they used to do much crazier things before. Draven sighed and agreed to give in to her request, since after all, they were a married couple. "I love you, Draven," she told him. Me too, Draven replied in a breath. "I really love you, Liana." "Say it again," Liana asked. I love you, Liana." The next day, Liana was once again taking a walk in the garden. "My lady, the status flowers are blooming all over there," Leo announced, handing her a bouquet of flowers. "You like flowers, don't you?" he asked. Liana was overjoyed and inhaled the fragrance of the flowers. She happily wondered if it was her husband Draven's doing that status had been planted for her. Indeed, it had been his idea. "Leo, how old did you say you are this year?" Liana asked. I'm 20 years old," he declared. "Already so old," Liana exclaimed. "What do you mean?" Leo asked in surprise. "I'm only 1 year older than you." When we first met, he was clearly just a child, Liana thought nostalgically. "Well, I suppose 15 years is enough time to grow up that quickly," she concluded. Even back then, Leo had liked Liana. He followed her everywhere and constantly inserted himself between her and Draven, which annoyed Draven a little. Liana also enjoyed his company because he was cute. After Liana returned from studying abroad, Leo had grown so much that she had been genuinely surprised. "My lady, I'm an adult now, you know," Leo declared. "You're so kind," she said, stroking his hair. Leo told her that she was really strange. Liana asked him to explain. "I'm 1 year older than you, my lady," he began. "You're younger than me, yet you always treat me like a child. And you seem different from girls your age." "Is that so?" Liana asked. "I also feel like you're someone I'll never quite be able to reach," Leo continued, "as if you could suddenly disappear at any moment." I didn't mean it in a strange way." Leo immediately corrected himself. "I mean, in the sense that you're very mature." "Thank you, Leo," Liana replied kindly, giving him her most beautiful smile. Leo was naturally dazzled by the beauty of his master's wife. "Ooh, over there!" Liana suddenly exclaimed. "The roses are blooming here too! How pretty!" Liana wanted to touch the roses when suddenly her husband called out to her in his authoritative voice. "Liana, flowers like roses have thorns, so you shouldn't touch them," Draven lectured her. "You know that, don't you?" "I know, I'm sorry," Liana apologized. She felt it once again, that weight on her chest. It was tightening again, yet she did not really understand why it kept happening. "My lady!" a voice shouted in panic from afar. Your father has collapsed!" What terrible news. Liana panicked and immediately headed to her family home. Her father was in critical condition. "This is impossible," she thought to herself, but she could not deny the obvious. "Father has always been so strong and healthy," she thought. At some point, he began suffering from frequent minor illnesses, and he even had difficulty going on walks. Time It truly passes so cruelly. Liana remembered all the good times she had spent with her family and all the love she felt when she was with them. Upon arriving home, her mother welcomed her and invited her to speak to her father, telling her that he could still hear her. "Father, I'm here. It's Liana," she said. "My child, you do not need to worry about us," her mother told her to comfort her. "We are more worried about you. Of course, the Duke will take care of you until the very end, but you know, we had you late in life. If we leave early..." Her mother burst into tears, unable to finish her sentence. At an old age, Liana thought, as she comforted her mother. No, mother. I am not a daughter you had late in life, nor am I someone who would be left alone at a young age. I am simply Liana, your daughter. Liana was still lost in her thoughts. At this rate, one day, father and mother will die too, won't they? She wondered. And not just them. Draven, Leo as well. Will everyone I know die and disappear, while I remain here forever as a 19-year-old girl? The world is drifting farther and farther away from me. Liana called her maid over. "There is something I would like to ask of you," she said. Later, she joined her husband, who was surprised that she had returned so quickly. "I thought you would come back after getting some rest," he told her. "Mother said it would be harder for me if I stayed at home, so she told me to leave early. It's not very far. I can always go back. You sent the best nurses and doctors in the territory. They'll get better soon," she concluded. Her worried husband asked if she was really all right. "No," she admitted. "I feel terrible." Father was clearly a healthy and robust man. Should I have visited him more often? "Don't think like that," her husband told her. "He isn't sick because of you." "But I'm so worried," she confessed. "You know the festival is coming soon, don't you?" her husband asked, changing the subject. "Ah, yes. Is it already that time?" Liana asked. "Let's dance and eat lots of delicious food. It will lift your spirits." That tickles. That tickles. Stop. "Then don't cry," Draven told her. "When you cry, I feel like my world is collapsing." "Okay," Liana replied. "When I died, did you feel the same way?" Liana wondered. "Every time? Every single time? What expression did you make each time?" A few days later, Liana was running through the corridors of the duchy to urgently reach her husband's office. She abruptly opened the door and shouted her husband's name. "Draven! It's finally today! The Harvest Festival!" She was so happy that the day had finally arrived. The Harvest Festival was celebrated every year. On the day of the first snowfall, a week-long Harvest Festival is held to pray for abundance and prosperity in the coming year. Legend has it that couples who dance together and pledge their love during this festival will enjoy a marriage that lasts 100 years. Liana and the Duke had always danced at this festival for more than 20 years now. They had always been proclaimed the king and queen of the festival. "Do you think Draven will like it?" Liana asked her maid. "Of course, my lady," she replied confidently. Even after all this time, Liana still got butterflies in her stomach at every festival. "I suppose I can't help it," she thought. "Wow, my lady, you look absolutely stunning," Leo declared. "It's been a long time since I've seen you in ordinary clothes," Liana admitted. "I may look like this, but I'm perfectly prepared," Leo declared. "Consider it an undercover investigation. I'll always be nearby, watching over you. Since you never know what might happen on a day like today, we have to be very careful, don't we? Besides," Leo continued, looking a little embarrassed, "I also wanted to see you dance up close." Liana thought she had heard the sound of her husband's voice and headed toward the balcony. Leo followed Liana with his eyes and noticed Draven below giving a speech. "I hope everyone remains safe during this harvest festival, and that we all make it through this winter safely." Liana was so focused on her husband that she had not heard Leo calling out to her. She turned and asked him what he had said. "I was just saying that the two of you have a lot in common," Leo told her. "Draven and I?" Liana asked. "Yes," Leo confirmed. "Sometimes both of you have such sad eyes." The first snow was already falling, and Draven had finished his speech. "Since people can participate from the age of 13, if I count the years, is this already my 22nd festival?" he thought. "Everyone looks so happy. It's the same festival every year. I'm tired of it," he thought, lowering his head before noticing blood on the ground. "Oh dear, I may have overdone it lately. There has been so much to handle between Liana and the festival preparations. I'll get used to this place very quickly." He noticed his wife running toward him, shouting his name. Draven immediately complimented his wife on her beauty. "You really made the best choice for your outfit." "That's not the point," Liana shouted. "You have a nosebleed? Are you okay?" Draven stepped back, not wanting to stain his wife's dress, and promised her that it had stopped and that he was fine. "We have more important things to do today," he told her. Deep down, he wondered if his wife was the same as she had been 15 years ago. He wondered if she too was tired of all this. A few moments later, the married couple were already in the town square visiting the festival stalls. Liana bought herself a pretty brooch and found everything amusing. "You know, Draven," Liana began, "next year as well." She did not have time to finish her sentence when she noticed the dark look in her husband's eyes, reminding her of Leo's words that sometimes both she and Draven had such sad eyes. At that very moment, a guard arrived to report an emergency to the Duke. Not wanting the Duke to leave, Liana insisted that he take her dancing. They absolutely could not miss that dance. Not today, but the guard persisted and had the Duke's full attention, much to the Duchess's dismay. "I am truly sorry to interrupt your break, Your Grace, but the matter is very serious. The situation at the border has flared up again," the knight declared. But Liana could not have cared less and continued pulling the Duke by the arm. "Draven, hurry up! We're going to miss our turn!" Liana quickly realized that her husband was not even listening to what she was saying. The knight was urgently awaiting the Duke's orders and asked whether the knights should handle the situation on their own. Liana called out to her husband again, and he told her in a grave tone to wait. Liana flinched, let go of her husband's arm, and ran away. Her husband's calls did not stop her. It's okay, she told herself. It's okay because I love him. She wondered how long she had been putting up with all of this. Since when did I start thinking this way? Was it that time? Or maybe that time? I don't love you anymore. What am I supposed to do now? She was already back in her room. "My lady, are you all right?" Leo asked, having followed her. "I was so worried when you suddenly disappeared. It looks like you were crying." "The Duke really went too far this time," Leo declared. "He has always been far too overprotective of you. He has no idea how difficult it is for you. If I were him, I would never—" He did not have time to finish his sentence because Liana had already moved closer to him. "That's enough," she told him. "Just comfort me." "But the Duke will be here any minute," Leo replied nervously. But a few seconds later, he could no longer resist the temptation of finally having Liana close to him. After that act, Leo instinctively pushed Liana away and apologized profusely, telling her that it had been an accident and that he had not wanted to hurt her. Liana was already crying. A second later, the two were occupied with something else, and Liana wondered whether things would have been better if she had grown old alongside her husband. If I weren't confused by little things, if I weren't disappointed so easily, would I have been able to handle things with greater maturity? Could I have stopped being afraid of dying over and over again? For his part, Leo finally confessed his feelings to her. I love you, my lady. Please, run away with me." Run away? Liana wondered, already bored. What do you see in me? I would have been indifferent even if it had not been you who walked through that door earlier. Would you still be able to say those things if you knew everything about me? I know it is a selfish thought. If Draven saw this, would he lose his mind and lock me away? Or perhaps he would leave me forever. Liana was still lost in her thoughts. Around my fifth death, I realized something. More than seeing my own flesh torn to pieces by dogs, more than the fact that I had to die again and again, watching you become more and more indifferent was even more heartbreaking. Unfortunately, I was not strong enough to endure any more pain and fear. The guilt of betraying her lover, the repeated deaths, the terror, all of it was driving her mad. Because in reality, Liana was still only a fragile 19-year-old girl. She would give in to her desires, surrender herself to death, and find herself desperately clinging to love once again. She wanted nothing else but that. But why? I'm the one who died, but you're the one who looks like you're dying, she wondered as she thought of Draven before noticing that he was standing there in front of the door. Liana called out to her husband, who immediately left the room, completely ignoring her. She was ashamed, but she ran after him without taking the time to listen to Leo calling her. "Draven, wait! Wait, please!" But it was no use. He would not turn toward her.
I'm sorry, Draven! I'm really sorry! My feet hurt so much!
Feeling that her husband still did not want to look at her, she made one final attempt.
Please look at me! Draven! I love you!
The Duke turned toward his wife, and what she saw confirmed one thing. Their love was over. She had completely destroyed it with her own hands. Liana knew that in reality it had already ended 15 years ago, the day she died from that snake bite. We forced ourselves to hold on, mistaking all those different emotions for love, she thought. She extended her hand and invited Draven to return with her. The Duke took Liana's hand. Indeed, their story was a curse, not a blessing. The gods' instructions were simple, yet complex as well. No matter what happened, until they left Hell, Draven must never turn around. The Duke and Duchess walked back toward the duchy, hand in hand. That evening, dinner consisted of cold lamb and bread. Surprisingly, there was no argument, no shouting, no screaming. The married couple ate a delicious dinner, as if they had spent an ordinary day together. After dinner, they talked and kept each other company. Those moments seemed to last forever. Draven looks at Liana with quiet concern and asks, "Did you enjoy dinner? I made sure to arrange everything so we could cook your favorite meals." Liana responds with a gentle smile. "Yes, it was perfect. I had a lovely evening. Thank you for taking such good care of me." "Tomorrow is your birthday," Draven declared. "I have prepared a grand festival. It's been so long since I planned one that it feels a little strange. How are you feeling?" Liana was a little surprised by his question, but she answered him anyway. "I'm not really sure, Draven. I would rather you got angry and threw me out or cast me aside," she thought as tears streamed down her face. "At least then I could hate you in peace. I'm glad I can't see your face right now. I'm sure you have a terribly sad expression." The Duke noticed that his wife was crying and begged her not to cry. "Don't cry, Liana. When you cry, I feel like my entire world is collapsing." "I'm sorry," Liana replied. "It's okay. It doesn't matter. I love you. I love you, Liana." Liana breathed. "I see, another failure." The Duke did not understand the meaning of her words, but he told himself that they had never succeeded, not even once since the very beginning. That night, Liana had a terrible nightmare and remembered the words of the god who had cursed them. Then the god spoke. "Once your 20th birthday has passed, the curse will be broken, but do not forget." She woke with a start on the morning after her 20th birthday, for the first time. She noticed that her wounds had disappeared and understood that she was finally free from the curse. She tried to wake her husband. "Draven, are you awake?" But he was sleeping deeply. She clearly remembered the favor she had asked of her maid. She had asked her to find wolfsbane essences, claiming that she wanted to cultivate them. "These flowers are very beautiful," she had added at the time. Her maid had protested, saying that the roots of the plant were highly poisonous. "I'm not sure I should simply hand them over to you. I would rather the Duke himself arrange for these flowers to be planted in the garden for you." "No, I want to grow them myself," she had replied. "Well, if you say so," the maid had finally declared. "You have always enjoyed gardening after all. Please be very careful once you have them." "Hey, do you know what wolfsbane means in the language of flowers?" the Duchess asked her maid. "What is it, my lady?" "Well, it means never again." The Duchess held a vial in her hands and declared, "I will make sure that you never come back to me again, my love." I love you, Draven. Goodbye.